What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the best sword and fan build in Where Winds Meet. If you just started your journey through the main story and still getting used to the combat flow, or you just want a build that won't punish you every time that you make a mistake, then this is the one for you. Now I'll be honest, I'm not a veteran player. I'm not the person who parries perfectly, dodges at the last frame, or goes into PvP with insane skill. However, my superpower lies elsewhere. I have an uncanny ability to create builds, aka setups that are easy to find items for, and with a forgiving playstyle that lets you survive while still doing insane amount of damage. So if you're like me and your first week in a game is all about surviving, learning the world, and not rage quitting after the tutorial boss, then listen closely, because the sword and fan build will carry you comfortably through the early game and well into the mid to end game. So, the core of this build revolves around the nameless sword, which is a strong and balanced weapon that excels in both the close and mid-range combat, and paired with a penance fan, which is a supportive tool that brings sustain, healing, and some surprising range utility. The nameless sword gives you flexibility. It's fast, it has a charge wave attack for a distance, a clean gap closer, and even an evasive disengage move. It's a great weapon to learn this game, because it rewards timing but does not punish you too harshly for mistakes. And then the penance fan, on the other hand, is your lifeline. This fan can be unlocked early through the Oddity Vendor questline, which is a small side task that rewards exploration and teaches you the world's collectible system. Once you have it, you will realize how forgiving it makes the game. You can self-heal mid-combat, support teammates in a co-op, or just outlast boss fights that would otherwise wipe you. Together, the sword and fan will form a complete package, so offense with defense and aggression with grace. So now let's go over the build, and first we have weapons. For them you will start with the nameless sword, which is a high precision balanced blade that scales evenly across the strength and dexterity, and later as you progress you can refine it using the jade coins that you earn from the breakthroughs and exploration. And as for our fan, we get the penance fan, which can be found early through the exploration based oddities. These collectibles often appear as glowing fairies or firefly-like orbs scattered across the map. Completing their small puzzle or the minigames will grant you a stat boost, so stamina, health, or even elemental damage, and turning them into the oddity NPCs will enhance your base attributes and make the wielding fan much more smoother. Next up, while we are talking about the weapons, let's go over the weapon talents. The nameless sword talents focus on critical precision and the combat flow. You will unlock passive boosts that increase your elemental crit rate or enable faster charge recovery. Once you reach the higher talent tiers through the story progression, the sword gains access to an aerial dash slash, which is perfect for closing gaps or dodging large enemy telegraphs. And then the penance fan talents meanwhile will enhance your supportive role. You will gain effects like healing boosts when your health is below 50% and reduced cooldowns on recovery skills. And for PvP this becomes even more impactful. Some PvP talents will directly increase your damage reduction or healing received during 1v1s, but overall both sets of the talents will progress naturally as you play. Just by completing the main quest, co-op dungeons, and exploration events will all feed your talent experience bar. Next up we got the gear, and our focus is on the balanced sets that boost both the offense and sustain. The game provides recommended set pairings directly into the equipment menu when you select the nameless combo, so just stick to those early on. You will want to prioritize accuracy, elemental damage, and max HP on your main pieces. These stats will scale universally with this build. As you collect higher tier gear, just reroll the secondary stats using the jade coins. Don't be afraid to experiment, as gear upgrading is fully refundable later if you want to change builds. Next we got our mystic arts, aka the special abilities that define our combat identity. For the sword and fan build, these are my recommendations. So first you want the Wind Surge. This boosts our movement speed and a critical rate for a short duration. It's perfect to use before burst combo. Then get the Spirit Flow. This thing will summon a swirling field that both damages and heals. It works amazing as it overlaps our weapon synergy. And then for my last recommendation, get the Dragon's Breath, which is a high energy skill that channels your internal power into the blade by boosting your next charged attack's output by up to 30%. Overall, the mystic cards can be equipped through the story progression and exploration achievements. I usually recommend for newer players just to experiment with what fits your tempo. Some of my friends like to focus on offense, while others on sustain and the crowd control. Next up we have talents, which is the place where your character begins to feel unique. You will unlock basic character talents as you advance through the main story. These range from passive boosts like the critical rate increases or extra mythic skill slots to active mechanics such as the firewall weapon coding or listening mode detection. Beyond that, there are boss talents. These are special nodes that unlock by meeting encounter specific criteria, like dodging a boss ultimate twice or avoiding certain attacks altogether. These will grant you massive bonuses against bosses, so for example, plus 10% damage while they're weakened, or minus 20% damage taken when knocked down. And lastly, for those who like competitive play, there's also PvP talents. These focuses on player versus player modifiers, so damage mitigation, control resistance, and recovery boosts. Even if you're not a PvP player, unlocking them through the casual fights will help your overall stat pool. Now let's talk about what makes this combination work, the skill set elements. The Nameless Sword will channel the wind element by focusing on precision and the flow, so fast cuts, energy waves, and the critical strikes that scale with your agility and the internal power. Each charged attacks releases multiple wind blades in a cone that is perfect for mowing down groups or hitting bosses from a safe distance. And then the Penance Fan in the contrast, jaws on the water and the life elements. Its base skill summons restorative gusts that linger in the field, so think of them as a healing zone. You can alter between the aggressive sword stances and defensive fan channels, depending on your health or your team's condition. Elementally, the wind and the water work together beautifully. The wind's critical boosts and evasion complements the water's sustain in the region. When both of these are leveled through the elemental mastery nodes and equipment synergy, you will see a balanced scaling, so your heals will get stronger as your damage improves. Next we have skill synergy, and this is where the build really starts to shine. The Nameless Sword has a built-in charge attack combo that launches waves of energy with each swing. When enchanted by the internal skills, each wave will deal consecutive damage by stacking perfectly with our elemental boosts. After your third hit, you can cancel it into a fan heal, which will instantly restore health while staying mobile. And here's the key to making the build feel amazing: never stay still. You want to alternate between the sword aggression and the fan sustain. For example, open with a full sword charge, then close the distance, and then perform a double follow-up attack, and then disengage with a cleave dodge. The moment that you're out of the range, just swap to the fan and drop your heal or the totem-like restoration. This constant rhythm, so pressure, retreat and heal, and so on, will mirror the traditional Wuxia combat that makes even the boss fights feel cinematic. And then later, when you unlock the talent passives, you can amplify the synergy with the boosts like the firewall quoting or listening mode awareness, which makes it easier to detect enemies or counterattack with precise timing. And now let's talk about the engine that powers your build, aka the internal skills. Each internal determines how your energy flows through your weapons, so for this setup you will want the Sword Wave Amplifier internal. This will enhance the Nameless Sword charged attack by releasing multiple energy waves per strike. This turns your single slash into a mini storm of destruction. Then second, get the Totem Healing internal. This boosts the fan stationary healing totem by extending duration and the range. This is your survival safety net during a boss fight. Then third, we want the Boss Breaker internal. This thing increases the charged attack damage versus elite and the boss enemies. It synergizes perfectly with our main quest progression. And finally, get the Dual Harmony internal. This is a general purpose internal that raises both the damage and the healing output, allowing your hybrid setup to remain effective across PvE and PvP. Overall, don't stress too much about leveling internals early. As you will level up, you will unlock internal breakthroughs every 10 levels. These will occur after completing boss trials, which are simple mob waves that unlock higher level potential. When you break through, your maxed energy, accuracy, and elemental damage also increase, so always keep up with your character level cap. And now finally, let's see how to actually play this build. We want to start our rotation by using the Nameless Sword and begin the combat with a full charged attack to launch multiple energy waves. Then immediately follow this with the Gap Closer by closing the distance on your target. Then during the recovery frames, tap your attack key twice for a smooth double follow-up strike. As the enemy retaliates, perform a backwards dodge cleave by dealing damage while repositioning. Then now switch to your fan mid-motion. This maintains combat flow while starting your sustain phase. Then deploy your healing totem or heal over time skill, depending on which internal you've equipped. For now, while healing, just use your fan's ranged attacks to chip away safely, and once your cooldowns reset, just switch back to the sword and rinse and repeat the combo. Overall, early on you will mostly spam attacks and the heals, but as your talents and internals develop, your rhythm becomes more dynamic. You want to think of our build's playstyle as a dance, so just strike, retreat, recover, and rinse and repeat.